Hello, and welcome to another episode of Despite the Challenges, a show where we showcase the amazing people who, despite their devastating challenges in their life, impairing circumstances, tries ways and finds strengths to overcome them. Today, my guest is Sharyn Murray. Sharyn had, in a short period of time, gone through a tremendous, devastating circumstances. Like when it rains, it pours. Something similar happened to her. And despite what life throws at us, in this case, Sharyn, she moved on. And let's hear her story from her. Sharyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us.
What happened?
What happened, yes.
Well, my husband was diagnosed with not just cancer, but a incurable cancer. So he survived a year.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago was it?
This was about just over 2 years ago.
Okay.
So he passed away. It was a very unpeaceful. I've seen other people pass, and this particular one was disturbing just because he was not at peace.
Okay.
Then 9 months later, I woke up at 4 a.m. to the house engulfed with flames, and I was able to run out of the house and take one of my pets with me.
Mm-hmm.
The other I couldn't find, and the other perished in the fire. But it was not just a regular fire, because I had a fire hydrant on my lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no water in the fire hydrants that day.
And when did this fire happen? Was it summer
The
month?
fire was 9 months after my husband died. So in 9 months, I lost 2/3 of the living creatures that I lived with. I lost almost all of them. I had one dog that survived everything. And I lost all my possessions because nothing was left after the fire. They finally got water after like 2 hours.
Was it summer?
It was winter. It was the middle of winter. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It was January 20th
Okay.
of
When this fire took place.
2013. Yes.
Okay. And no water.
No water.
So, which means it took longer to put the fire out.
Right.
Which means you lost.
I lost more than the average person. So I walked away from after 9 months. I had a car. I was able to move my car. I had a car, a pocketbook, and a dog, and the clothes on my back, and that's it.
And that's it. Mere strength.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's devastating enough to go through one loss, and you hardly had time to recover from that. Another devastating blow comes in.
Right.
You know, every time I come across a story such as yours, not exactly similar circumstances, but too many things, one trouble follows the other. That's a time for, your spirit is being tested, your whole existence is being tested, how much you can endure. And I personally find that when something came devastating, it wasn't alone in my life. There were multiple things. And the endurance, the perseverance that we have, that we don't even know we have. Sometimes you just kind of start and find that courage or inner strength and move on. But it takes a lot of effort, right? Did you have family around you? Was there any support system to help you through that stage? Not only the illness of your husband, but also after that?
Well, I had support with my husband in the form of my mother came and lived with me once my husband was bedridden.
Mm-hmm.
So that was extremely helpful because we could at least relieve each other to go out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I was at peace with, I didn't stay there 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I did take breaks,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that helpful.
To regain your strength.
To regain my strength during that time. After, with my husband's death, the form of support that I was expecting that I didn't get, which was quite a surprise to me, was that none of my husband's friends ever contacted me ever again after the funeral. That was the last time I heard from them. So I thought that they would at least email or Facebook or call, especially at the anniversary, see how I was.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently everybody knows about this fire too. So I was expecting to maybe hear from a few people, but I didn't hear from them.
You didn't hear from
No.
them. And I'm
No.
sure it's disappointing.
It was very disappointing. Yeah.
Especially in the time of need, right?
Right.
So just the acknowledgement of that they're around and they know,
Yeah.
and you didn't get that.
But I did, I found that with my husband's death, people didn't really know what to do, so they did nothing. Whereas with the fire, there were some very concrete things people could do. So my neighborhood rallied around me, and my neighborhood, collected funds, they collected gift cards. A cousin put up a fundraiser for me online. And then, so people were able to do things with the fire because I needed physical stuff. So
Yes,
that was,
understandably.
so a lot of groups came through and provided just simple things like plates to eat off of.
Yes, and you need a lot more than physical things. You need some acknowledgement from people, especially people that you have known for some time, who have been around, and especially if there was a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And not hearing from them, I can see that it might be very disappointing. You did mention that you have a stepson,
Yes. Yes.
and there were some other issues within the family that might
Right.
have complicated things while you were dealing with that. The fire came along.
Right.
What were the turning points for you at that stage where you found yourself struggling with how to even manage the loss of the fire, even to make sense out of whatever's happening, as to where you have to kind of come to a realization, okay, now what do I do? Where do I pick up the pieces and where do I start? So how did that
So
shift?
I think too that after the fire, after the two tragedies, one of the first things I did was I asked myself what was going to make me happy again.
Mhm.
What could I think of anything that was going to make me happy? And the only thing that I could come up with was I had very happy memories of living in France. I got the opportunity to live in France when I was in college.
Mhm.
And I travel there frequently, so I just save up my money, travel to France, save up my money, go back to France. And it's the same town, it's the same vacation, but I love it. And I have friends that live in this little town, and I gave that to myself as a carrot. Now this is right after my husband died, so I'm like, okay, I need to keep going because I need to get to
Overcome it.
France.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was very helpful to have a small goal like that.
Okay.
And then, go ahead.
And
I'm
it
sorry.
made it even difficult when you lost the house.
I can't remember the series of events. Did I lose the house before the vacation or?
Mhm.
I think I lost the house before the vacation. I did because I had trouble getting a passport because all of my documentation had burned in the fire. So I got a
So you had no getaway.
Right, I had it was really touch and go with the passport because I also lost my license, and it was, in order to get the passport I needed a license, and then to get the license I needed to prove where I lived, and I didn't have a place, I didn't have a permanent residence. It was getting to France was a little bit tricky.
Tricky.
Because of the
Very
missing
tricky.
passport.
Yes.
But
You also mentioned about the actual footage of the fire.
yes, so I brought some today.
Okay, let's take a look at it.
Okay.
911, where's your emergency?
288 Cleaver Road is on fire.
So tell me a little bit more when you were standing outside and the fire department is on their way and it's 4 a.m. in the morning?
Around 4:20 in the morning. It
In
was
January.
In January. It was a very warm night. And everybody asks how the fire started. And so it started in a fire pit. It was a very warm night. My friend and I lit a fire. We had done this many, many times before. And she left. The fire appeared to be out to me. I did not douse it, but it appeared to be out. I went to bed and woke up at 4:30 in the morning to see flames on the second floor. So the fire, even as the house was burning, I said to myself, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. It was a rather surreal, sometimes it takes a little while for a tragedy to kind of sink in, and that
Or
was
anything that you're experiencing to
the dog.
sink in.
The dog,
Right.
yeah. I was really upset about the fact that the dog was in the house. But to not see water coming out of, to see those firemen go from hose to hose to hose in the neighborhood and not see the fire, the water come out of those hoses, that's a whole different level of trauma.
Frustration.
Because it was something that I expected my whole life to be there. And I always said to myself, if I have a fire, I'm pretty set because I have a fire hydrant on my lawn. So post-fire, I had to hire a trauma specialist. I had to see a trauma specialist because when you see that thing that's supposed to work not work, I started to think that other man-made things might not work, like bridges. So I would start having panic attacks as I was driving over bridges or elevators or anything man-made. I started to, and to this day, I wonder.
So there's emotional toll that took despite everything else that has gone.
Right.
In the past.
Right.
And I know you mentioned that when your husband died, you were reminded of another close death in the family.
Right. And I think it may be part of what helped me is that my brother died when I was 35 and he was 31 in a boating accident where his boat capsized. And that was my first experience with really deep grief because he was a big strapping guy. You just didn't expect him to die. It was a big shock.
You don't expect any young person to die. Other than accidents, he's pretty young. It's untimely.
Right, right.
So you dealt with that grief.
I don't know if I dealt with that grief well, at that time in my life. I think that I spent a lot of time pushing it away and saying, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be recovering. And the difference between that and this and my husband's death was that I spent a lot of time saying, I'm right where I should be. I'm grieving the way I should be. I spent a lot more time being quiet and feeling the feelings with my husband than I did when I was 36.
When your brother died, at that time, you tried to deal with the grief, or you told yourself, I should not be feeling that way.
Okay.
And later on, when your husband passed away, now there is another death in the family which
Okay.
is so close to you. Did you ever feel that there is something else for you to either you're burying the emotions deep or you need to deal with it so you bring them out?
When my husband died, it was very, I guess the first death kind of spurred a looking for meaning. You know, after a tragedy, people look for meaning. And I think that I found a lot of meaning in metaphysical programs.
Okay.
So having had a little bit of that background, I think helped me in the second death of my husband
see.
be quieter and feel and be present with the not so pleasant feelings.
So in other words, that I am hearing that you're finding meaning inside, deeper inside, to deal with those losses, more of a spiritual, more on a spiritual path than just dealing it outside, going for a therapy, etc., or voicing it out. How you're.
I think it's more of sitting with it, like allowing it.
Okay. Explain.
It's hard to sit with grief. It's hard to let that pass through you. It's easier to make ourselves busy. Oh, I'm so busy. I've been so busy. How many times do you hear that? When
Put it off.
yeah.
Thanks.
So it's hard to sit and say I'm lonely. I'm sad. I'm hurt. I'm devastated. I'm hurt.
So you acknowledged your feelings.
Yeah.
So acknowledging is, in my words, in order for any transformation to take place, first you have to see the situation as is.
What is exactly? Exactly. What is? So a lot of times I'll just say, okay, what is today? What is my truth? What is my reality today?
How did your belief system, your faith help you?
My belief system is kind of a hodgepodge of a Christian upbringing with some Buddhist belief in there. So I feel that we come to this life to learn lessons. And obviously part of my life lesson is a lot about the impermanence of life.
Okay.
So that helps me. I don't feel like anything could have prevented my husband from dying, my brother from dying, the fire from happening, the dog from dying. I feel that they were all written into my life plan. So I believe that we do, with a higher consciousness, we say, I want to come be a human, and here's the experiences that I want to have to help me get to the next level.
Yes.
So for some reason, I picked an awful lot of loss. That's what I feel. And so I don't have that going back over, and I did with the dog for a long time. I had a lot of guilt over the dog dying.
Because one of the dog you couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't. I went back in twice for the dog.
In the fire.
In the fire. And I made a conscious decision to live when I was in the fire, because I did say to myself, I can end it all right now, and nobody will know that that's what I did.
Did fire department, the people who were present there, did they let you go inside?
Oh, they weren't there yet. So they
Oh,
were
I
a little,
see,
because
I
it was
see.
4:30 in the morning, they were a
Okay.
little slow. Nobody expects whatever it was, stage 4 fire at 4:30 in the morning. So
And you were woken up with smoke alarms.
no, I was woken up to a sound of the crackling outside my home. So it started outside. So I did not hear the smoke alarm until I was looking for the phone and trying to get the dogs out. And then the smoke alarm went off.
So Sharyn, as you said that you, this was all written in your plan, and given on the same thought process and a mindset of there's always a reason a higher purpose or a higher plan that, the words that anyone wants to choose, that there is some learning for us. In most of the time, those learning lessons come in very negative, devastating situations in our life. And that's the time where we have to kind of dig deep and find meaning and find the courage to move on. So all that's happening, you have a goal to go to France, to find that your happiness so you can leave it behind what's happened and move on with your life. And here's another challenge of the documentation and a passports and whatnot. So how it was taking shape as you were trying to put pieces together, not only the insurances, these everything else that person has to go through with such a big tragic event, not only putting your life back together, finding places to live, and having the physical things as well as everything else that you need as an emotional support.
Well, thank God for insurance, because I would never even consider being without insurance, because even though it's not a perfect system, insurance gave me housing.
Okay.
For part of what happens when you have a fire is they pay for your rent in a temporary place. So I had a place to live. It was near where I worked. It was a perfect situation for me. That was step one. Step two is you have to say again, what's the thing that needs my attention the most? So what I found was that I was just having trouble like finding bills, paying bills. I was on the phone constantly, getting stuff back, explaining the situation. So I found a friend that was out of work, and I was not able to pay her a lot, but I paid her to manage my life.
Okay.
And she would, like, days where I was just like, I don't know what to do, she would say, like, okay, show me all your bills, get out your bills. And she
You had a personal assistant.
I had a personal assistant. I don't anymore, but I did.
At that time, it was, okay, take some load off your to-do list as well as from your mind so you can focus on other things. And you mentioned that you also found out that you were underinsured.
Right.
Okay.
I was slightly underinsured.
So to make things a little more interesting in your life. So finally, all those challenges dealing with insurance companies and getting your documentation complete. So all that was how many months?
It's still going on.
It's still going on.
It's still going on.
Did you go back to France?
I went to France, I did, yes.
Okay. When was that?
September.
Last year?
September, was it this past September? It was it'll be, a year ago, so it'll be,
last year. Last year.
Within the past year.
So it's some memories of the past visit, at the same time just kind of writing a new chapter of your life.
Yes. And but the most important thing, significant thing for me is that I ignored everybody's advice about what kind of house I should rebuild or a place I should live in. And I knew that I needed a house. I needed a backyard for the dog. And I love a backyard anyway. It didn't have to be a big backyard, just backyard.
Just backyard.
And I bought I was able to buy another home, and I'm so happy in this home. I like this home better than the home that burned down.
So you have now a place to be happy
Yes.
as well with your dog.
And I'm proud of it. I'm proud that I can afford this home, and I'm proud, I love decorating it. I love being there. It's very relaxing for me.
And I'm proud of you that how you have managed to overcome everything that you had been through, still not losing courage, that finding ways to do what you have to do. What can I do today? I think that's the phenomenal courage that people can bring in to a situation like that. And it takes a lot of effort. Not only to face that, but to deal with it.
Well, we didn't even talk about the physical aspect of
Tell me.
it's exhausting. Have you so petty things that normally annoy you a little bit, it annoys
Huge.
you like.
Yes.
So it might be somebody arguing in a line about their coupon, and you're just like, oh, really, really, we're talking. So yeah, it was very challenging for me to be pleasant after that. So all that, so I tend to I'll stuff a lot of my anger just to be pleasant. So it all went to overeating. All that anger went to.
So that's a good point that you bring in for dealing with emotions. In most cases, when people have no venues to let that emotions out or be able to discuss or be able to deal with it, they tend to bury it inside. In your case, you were able to make a lot of good decisions where you knew which your goals are, where you want to get to, have that vacation, have a house. You accomplished all that within a short period of time. What's in future for you? Things that you inspire to do, something that inspired you.
I've had a long-term dream of having a show like Sesame Street for wildlife.
Oh,
So
okay.
teaching children about wildlife and what they can do to make sure that our planet is sustainable for a long period of time. And I've taken some steps to get there, and I just look at what is in my life that can help me get to that next step. So
That's outstanding. I wish you a lot of luck.
thank you.
Sharyn, thank you for being here today with us. And like to ask you, what's your message to the audience if you were to give something?
Okay. I think it's that nobody's going to save you. You have to do it yourself. Unfortunately, nobody, and not a lot of people are even come and ask how they can help. So you have to do the reaching out, unfortunately. But it's not overcoming these things. It's not like one big thing that you do. It's not like you did this one thing and everything's better. It's setting a lot of really tiny
Small goals.
and then maybe
Baby steps.
it might take 6 months for things to get better in that area, but just
Taking the first few steps.
yeah, and keeping a gratitude journal too.
I like that. I believe I'm really involved into the positive psychology type of study and as well as practice, and I talk about it quite a bit. And even though we talk about gratitude in a more of a spiritual ways, but positive psychology, the research shows that gratitude makes people happy. I'm glad
Yeah.
you shared that.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Sharyn, today.
Thank you so much for having me.
For our audience, to wrap up this, I have some words to share. So, this quote that I find from a French humanist and a moralist, and a man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. So we need to get off the shore if we want to find the depths of the ocean. With that said, I like to thank viewers joining us today. Until next time, this is Despite the Challenge, and I'm host Ritu Chopra. Thank you.